really happy about that. My interest in this area stems from my work in intellectual property, access to medicines, but I also wear several hats on sexual and reproductive
been destroyed. So our role as associations is then to engage and make policymakers, governments, African Union Commission, and everyone, who plays in that space to say this is what you're doing, and what we need you to do is to give preferential procurement from Africa-based manufacturers. And when you're doing that, you are creating demand, you are creating capacity in Africa to produce those medicines. And whenever the donations dry up, you've got capacity, sustainable capacity. You've got capacity, sustainable capacity to continue producing those medicines. And I gave an example of mosquito nets and so forth. So that has been the experience. This project requiring 50 million for you to put up a plant. And even if you go to Africa Development Bank, if you go to Nazim and say, I want $60 million, they'll ask you, do you have a market for the product that you're going to produce? Because the market is not there. You put in 50 million, you're only having sales of 5 million. That's not viable. And there's no one who can give you money. It's not a bankable project. So you would find that when you go for funding, they'll ask you, do you have offtake agreements with the markets? Do you have a market for your product? And what we need, in as much as donations are well intended, but we need to be very careful in terms of how we engage. Let the donations be procured from qualifying African pharmaceutical manufacturing companies. And that's very critical as far as I can see. And also there is the advent of free trade area. And as manufacturing associations, it is our role to look at trade barriers that are between states so that we can create a common market continental level. You cannot sustain a vaccine plant from just a national market. You have to look at regional, and you need to look at continental. And so it's important that the borders are opened up. There's free trade, free commerce of medicines, movement between countries. And we are there because we are on the ground. We experience the difficulties of shipping a product from, example, where you got demand, you got capacity in Ghana or Nigeria. You want to send Burkina Faso, you want to send medicines to Côte d'Ivoire. At one time, the medicines had to be flown to Paris, and then from Paris it comes to Côte d'Ivoire. But you are within less than policies that were in place. So that's what we've been advocating for, the opening up of the markets, and to ensure that there is open trade, and remove the regulatory barriers that are also in place. That makes it difficult for you to market your product because you need to have a regulatory authorization, marketing, and you have to register in 50 with 50 regulatory authorities for you to be able to market the whole of Africa. AMA comes into play, so forth. So I can say that for the time being. Thank you.
Thank you. Some of these great insights that we
and give a real example. Emmanuel mentioned this whole concept of World Fund and other donors. We have a calling here from the Kenya Association Universal, based in Kikuyu in Kenya. They went through huge amounts of pain, both financial and human pain, to get WHO peak. 0 orders from the Global Fund. 0 orders. You know, so that's very, because they've spent millions, you know, and nothing came of having advanced purchase orders. Without that, it's not going to happen, really. Sorry.